What's going on, guys? We're back into another video, and today is another ranking video. Now, with the release of Spider-Man Far From Home, I decided let's do something completely original that no other movie YouTuber has ever done, sarcasm, and rank all of the Spider-Man movies that have been released. There is now 8 Spider-Man movies, 8 like big Spider-Man movies that have been released. I know there's some like other little ones, but these are the 8 main big Spider-Man movies that have been released. You got the Raimi trilogy, the Amazing Spider-Man duo, you got the 2 MCU Spider-Man, and you got Spider-Man Far From Home. So today we will be ranking all 8 films. Before we start that ranking, if you are new, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe. And first off, before I even ask for that, thank you so much for taking the time, clicking on the video. It means the absolute world that you would like to come check out the content. It really does mean a lot. And now I will say, if you enjoy the content, if you want to see more, I, on average, most weeks post 3 videos a week, including a movie review on Wednesday every week of a new movie. If you're interested in any of that content at all and you want to check it out, don't forget to drop a subscription and like and comment. Let me know down below in the comments, what is your favorite Spider-Man movie that has been released? Now, that's pretty much it. No more rambling. Without further ado, I think we're just going to get right into it. Basically, how my rankings work is I'm just going to rank them. I'll give you guys a little reason why they are the way they are. I'm not going to do a full drawn-out review. That would take forever. I'm just not going to do that. And another thing before we start, I hope you guys like the new layout. I did it with my movie reviews. I'm doing it with this as well. I think it's going to be cool. A little rejuvenation to the channel in some of the areas. The videos I do the most of are rankings and movie reviews, so I thought I would revamp those 2 genre of films, of videos. But without further ado, I'm talking way too long before the beginning of the video. Let's just hop right into it. And coming in at number 8 is Spider-Man 3. Now, this movie, if I'm being honest, it's just a mess. I mean, there are a few little things that I like about this movie. You know, everyone loves Tobey Maguire, but it's just a mess. There's too many plot points to keep up with. By far, be all end all. You have Tobey Maguire's terrible hair when he sucks it down, and let's not forget about Venom turning Peter into an angsty emo teenager, and all the dancing. Stop with the dancing. The film did have a few redeeming moments. I did kind of like the arc with Sandman. I don't really think the way they did Harry Osborn's arc at the end was that great. I didn't think it was handled very well. And I think there's too many plot points. Venom was drawn out way too quickly and was not good. And in all, this was the least favorite movie I had experience-wise. And it comes in at number 8. Coming in at number 7 is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, I tend to enjoy this film to a point. It's more of a guilty pleasure for me, but by no means do I say it's a good movie. It is not. I just happen to enjoy it more than Spider-Man 3. That's the only reason why it is above Spider-Man 3. Now, I love the relationship between Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker. And I generally tend to think that Andrew Garfield gives relatively good performances in these movies. Now, in The Amazing Spider-Man, he's a little more but I think in this movie, he gives a relatively good performance. Again, I say I love the Peter-Gwen Stacy relationship, but unfortunately, a combination of too many plot points, bad villains, and poor direction overall kills the film for me. It's not the worst movie of them all, but in general, it's just not that good. Coming in at number 6 is The Amazing Spider-Man. So I just talked about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I tend from here on up to enjoy the rest of these movies. So first watching The Amazing Spider-Man, I understand that there are flaws, but I didn't really hate it as much as a lot of people do. Yes, some of Andrew Garfield's acting may have been a little too much. He may have been too much on the edgy, angsty teen instead of the kind of nerdy teen that Peter Parker should be. He didn't have the traditional Peter Parker mold. And I understand that. I understand the complaints. But overall, I tend to enjoy the film. I think Lizard is an okay villain. Not the best, but okay. I think the overarching story is okay. That's kind of all I have to say about this film. Is it's just an okay film. It's not bad, like it's not okay. I'm not gonna say it's not bad. It's not terrible in any stretch of the imagination, but it's not great in itself. Coming in at number 5 is Spider-Man. So the first movie in the Raimi trilogy. Look, it's a good movie. I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. I just tend to enjoy the other 4 more. Tobey Maguire does a better job at capturing who Peter Parker is in the overall essence. And I tend to think that he is the middle actor of the 3. You guys know I think Tom Holland's the best, but Tobey Maguire is not too far behind in number 2. He does a very great job at encapsulating the persona of Peter Parker. You also have his origin story, which was great. Uncle Ben, the ugly cry. You have all of that. With great power comes great responsibility. That's the first time that's dropped in a movie. And you've got one of the better villains of the Spider-Man movies, the Green Goblin. I think that arc with the Osborns and Oscorp and Peter knowing who the villain is and all of that, I tend to like that arc. I thought it was executed very well. Thought Willem Dafoe was a very good Green Goblin. I thought he did a great job as the Green Goblin. And overall, it's a good film. The CGI for the time is great. Now, it doesn't really hold up nowadays, but this came out in, I believe, 2002 or like 2001 or somewhere in that area. The CGI of Spider-Man swinging through the city at that time was amazing. It really was. And in all, it's a good Spider-Man origin story. It really is. I tend to really enjoy it. And it comes in at number 5 on the list. Coming in at number 4 is Spider-Man 2. So the final Raimi trilogy Spider-Man comes in at number 4. A lot of people say this is the best Spider-Man movie. And look, I understand why. I get it. It's a very good movie. You've got one of the better villains in Doc Ock. You've got some great moments, but I just tend to like the other 3 more, which now we know are the 2 MCU movies and Into the Spider-Verse. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this is a good movie, if not great movie. I enjoyed it from start to finish. Tobey Maguire continues to give these great performances, and again, I go back and say, you've got one of the greatest superhero movie villains in Doc Ock. He was very good. And of course, you've got the train scene, the train fight, one of the best fights I've ever seen in a movie. And again, you go back to the CGI and the special effects for the time are very ahead of their time, and they did a very great job. Overall, this is a great movie. It just falls out of my top 3 and it comes in at number 4 on my list. Before I go into my top 3, again, don't forget to comment down below what is your favorite Spider-Man movie. And also, again, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Coming in at number 3 is Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, this is the second time we meet Peter Parker in the MCU. We meet him in Captain America Civil War, but this is his first standalone movie. And the thing that they did differently from the Raimi trilogy and the Amazing Spider-Man movies is you already know his origin. You already know, so why rehash it? And they did that. And yes, it was interesting that they did that, but I kind of liked it because you're able to hash out a different story. You don't need a third telling of his origin in the movies. You just don't. And I think they did that really well by having him already be known as Spider-Man. You bring him in Civil War, have him have a little cameo, and then you give him a solo movie. I think was great. One of the standout things I have to say is Tom Holland is, I would say, the best live-action Spider-Man. A lot of people were arguing it was Tobey Maguire after Homecoming, but I think after Far From Home, he has solidified himself as the best Spider-Man. The thing I really like also is that the comedy works really well. It does, because it's the MCU. A lot of comedy is involved in the MCU. I love the father-son dynamic between Peter and Tony Stark. One of my favorite parts of the movie, but of course, probably my favorite part of this movie of all is the Vulture. Michael Keaton gives a fantastic performance as the Vulture. I'd say the Vulture is probably the second best Spider-Man movie villain behind Mysterio. And it goes back and forth. It's literally neck and neck. That's how close it is. But Michael Keaton gives an absolutely fantastic performance. You have a gut-wrenching plot twist in the middle of the movie that deals with Peter and the Vulture that just hits you and you're not expecting it, and I really appreciate that and really enjoy it. This is a fantastic movie. I go back and watch it a lot. It's got great rewatchability value, and it comes at number 3 on my list. Coming in at number 2 is Spider-Man Far From Home. So, the film that just came out this year. If you want to see my entire review, go check it out. It is in my movie review playlist. If you want to see any of my movie reviews from this year, go check out that playlist. But this film had the very difficult task of showing what happened post-Endgame, and I think, honestly, they really knocked it out of the park. They did a fantastic job. You have Tom Holland back in the spotlight. He was only in Endgame for maybe the last 30 minutes of the movie, and he really didn't do much, and rightfully so. It was the finale of this Avengers thing that we know, but he's back in the spotlight, and he's great. This is probably one of the funniest MCU movies of all of them. They took a risk of taking him out of New York. They took him all the way to Europe. They visited a bunch of different locations, and it was great. It was so cool to watch him interact with these different cities and different landmarks. I thought it was just awesome and very cool. But again, with just like Homecoming, I gotta talk about the villain. I gotta talk about Mysterio. Jake Gyllenhaal gives a great performance. There's a plot twist in the middle of the movie that deals with Mysterio. That's great. I found it really great because you kind of know that he's going to turn into a villain, but the reason why I really dug and thought was very intriguing. Overall, Mysterio is the main reason why this movie is up as far as it is, but also the comedy really works really well. You have another fantastic performance by Tom Holland, and another kind of low-key thing that I really like is the relationship between Peter and MJ. You don't really know MJ that well in Homecoming. She's not really fleshed out as much. This movie, you really get, she has more of a character arc. You get to know her, you get to know her backstory, and you get to understand why she is the way she is. I really appreciate that. I thought it was really good. And also, the other really big thing I like is the theme of moving on in this film. There's a lot of references to Tony Stark. There's a lot of callbacks to different things from Iron Man movies and the Avengers movies. And this was really the epilogue to Endgame. And yes, it was confirmed by Kevin Feige, this closed out Phase 3, and it acts like an epilogue to Phase 3. It really does. It's like, it's the moving on. You're never going to see the MCU the same again, and they hit it out of the park. But coming in at number 1 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, I'm going to be honest. Originally, I wasn't going to see this film. I thought I would. I was like, I probably will, but I didn't have many hopes, didn't have many expectations. I'm like, oh, it's an animated Spider-Man movie. Okay, whatever. Heard a lot of hype, went and saw it, blown away. One of the best films of last year. It was in my top 5. Who knew an animated film like this could make you feel so many emotions, make you feel a certain type of way? It did it. It did. The animation style in this film is one of the highlights of the film itself. I love it. I love how they show the story. I love how they have little nods to comic books. They have like speech bubbles and stuff, which I think is funny. Each Spider-Man has a different animation style, which hats off to the artists and creative team on that film. It must have taken them so much time animating each character differently. I dug that. But really, I dug the story of Miles Morales. This isn't a story about Peter Parker. This is the story of Miles Morales. But you take all of these other Spider-Men, including Peter Parker, and they have to fight Kingpin and this threat to the multiverse. And the whole idea of a multiverse has always been very interesting to me. I first started getting into it with The Flash, and since then, the MCU's teased it for a long time. And then Spider-Man. This Spider-Man movie, they really tackled the multiverse, which I thought was just great. But overall, I really got to say, Kingpin, fantastic villain. I wouldn't say he's the best of the Spider-Man villains. I think the MCU ones are by far the 2 best villains. But Kingpin is a great villain. You tend to feel what he's feeling because he's going for one goal. It's to get his family back. So you can kind of understand his motives, which makes a villain a good villain in my opinion. You have the great voice acting, which really, you could really feel the emotion with these characters. Again, there was another twist in the middle of the movie that brought a lot of emotion, and really it really hit hard. A lot of you have already seen the movie. I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't, but go check out this movie. It's great. I absolutely love it. It's again in my top 5 of last year, and it is at number 1 on my list. That's pretty much it, guys. Again, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is my number 1 favorite movie of the Spider-Man movies. Let me know down below in the comments again, what is your favorite Spider-Man movie? It can be any one of them. I won't judge. I don't. Film is subjective. But guys, again, thank you so much for watching. It means the absolute world. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That's pretty much it, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next video.